Hey everyone, welcome back to my Raid Shadow Legends free-to-play account, or as I now like to call it, the unluckiest account in Raid. Been a few days of grinding and leveling and making food to try and build this team up that I've got, such that the team is. So we've done some work. We've decided that this will be our team. It's going to be Elhain and Aethel as our damage dealers, Draconis as our sustain, heal, and shield champ, Luria as our control, and then I finally managed to farm a War Maiden out of the Badlands in the hard stage of the campaign in level 9 of the campaign. Ended up with 3 of them. So apparently War Maidens are like London buses. You don't get one for days on end, and then 3 turn up at once. But I am glad I finally have her. So she's my defense down and kind of support champion in that role. Plus, she does a reasonable amount of damage in her own right. So that's my team. And obviously, Saurus, as I described before, is going to become my campaign farmer. He's getting on okay gear wise. Still needs some help, and he won't be able to do brutal. He won't even be able to do hard until I really gear him up and probably 6-star him. So that's a long-term project. At the moment, Elhain is still safer in as a farmer than he is, just because of the sustain she gets from her lifesteal gear. Aethel is joining her. She's now 5-starred and maxed out in terms of her ascension as well. She's also in lifesteal gear. So between the two of them, they can clear a lot of content as they just self-sustain through things. Her gear's not as good, but we are working on that and working on getting them up. Draconis is still not ideally geared. Definitely needs much more hit points to be truly useful, but we will get there. Luria is my next project of 5-star, just to get her some safety. Her hit points and defense are way low. She just dies far too quickly at the moment. So despite the fact that she's in hit point chest and things, I need to get those up. But she's proving to be really good, definitely. And at the moment she suffers because I've concentrated on speed, just to get her going first in the arena most of the time and against waves. So she goes ahead of Elhain and Aethel. Elhain's masteries are now done. I paid for these, and I've gone here, which is actually do more damage to controlled people, including frozen. So between Luria and Elhain, they actually kind of sync up quite nicely, and they're winning me a lot more arena matches now than I was before. In terms of pulls, we've collected Jizzo from the free-to-play, the bonus for logging in for 2 weeks. We pulled a Greybeard, who I've started slowly building up, just throwing some gear that I had left over onto him. He's another free AoE freeze champion, so he could potentially make his way into some lineups when I need that extra control on a second wave, or I'm manualing my way through a negative affinity matchup or something like that. Then earlier today, and I have to apologize for this, I thought I was recording it and it turns out I wasn't. OBS or I had some sort of malfunction, or OBS just didn't get it right. Probably me though. But we pulled another Hexweaver who is not any use to me at all, and then we got a Stitch Beast who is a Void champion, who, as it turns out, may actually be of use. And it depresses me that this is how the state that the account is in, that this is what I'm considering as a potentially good pull. He's a basic 2 attack on his A1. His A2 is then a 50% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown of 25% weaken, so the big weaken. And it's a 2 hitter on a 50% chance, so a solid chance of getting that weaken off. Obviously, we already have a weaken on Aethel, and she's fairly reliable for placing that when she's got the accuracy. So it's not a necessity, but it's not a bad thing to have as a backup or to cover when Aethel's runs out. But the thing that makes me interested in this guy is this. So when ascended, decrease turn meter by 100%. I don't have another decreased turn meter champ other than the tiny bit that I think Draconis does. Actually, not even sure he does. There's one of my champions does a little bit, but this could be potentially very useful in spiders, in Fire Knight, and even in Frost Giants when I have to do it. And obviously, he's being void. He's not positive or negative affinity, so it's never, as long as I've got the accuracy, it's never not going to land. It's not even on a percentage. It's a place. It just does it. So this is actually something that I may well end up building this guy out, just because even though he doesn't do Cold Heart's massive damage to go along with it, this remove 100% of their turn meter is a really useful thing to have. But like I say, it kind of speaks to where this account is at, that's something I consider to be a worthwhile endeavor these days. In terms of the pulls from mystery shards, I said I was going to give you guys an update from those. We pulled a Hyria, we pulled a Gator, we pulled a Magus, and I think one of the others of these guys, maybe it was one of these. But yeah, it was just food, 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 and food. After I pulled sort of 120 mystery shards the other day, so nothing really good happening there. I'll say the Greybeard was the only close to interesting thing. And we pulled a bunch more today and got no more rares. So that's where we're at. The Sacred Shard I'm saving up for the weekend. There's a 2 times event this weekend for Sacred Shards. So I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that all this bad luck finally translates into a nice pull for that. Even if it's just a decent epic, like, I will take it at this point. Just something to really help with progression. And in terms of that, obviously that Sacred Shard has come from finishing the campaign on hard. So we finally got our way through that, mostly between Elhain and Saurus, just teaming up with adding all their AoEs together. And then in the dungeons, we finally got our way up to Dragons 11, which is where I was aiming for. Probably, I thought I would get there maybe even about a week ago, but with the lack of champions that I pulled on this account, and the extra work that I've had to do in trying to kind of create a team out of beginner champions and champions that I ideally wouldn't be leveling at this stage of the game as anything other than food for the future, has meant that this got delayed and we struggled to get past the negative affinity. This isn't safe yet. It probably wins about 60% of the time on auto, so I'm still working on their gear. Silver is the biggest problem. Just never have enough of it. So I'm probably going to end up coming into spiders a little bit now. If I can get through to here, that would be great, but I've got a feeling I might just end up farming these sort of 5 and 6 stages here, just to pick up some 3 and 4 star accessories and try and get them onto all my champions, because that's really kind of what they're all missing. Elhain missing 1 piece, Saurus missing a piece, Draconis missing. They're all sort of going to be missing these as well when they level up. Luria is going to be my next project, so 5 star, get her up there as well. More wave control. Definitely needs more survivability. She goes down way too easy at the moment, but she has proven herself to be actually quite an adept champion. And once I get her booked up, this marker for this 75% freeze AoE with the non-revive is, I am so surprised by just how good a skill this is. Obviously it's on a long cooldown, but it basically means I don't take any damage from the first wave of any dungeon. And as long as it takes me a couple of rounds to go through it, this is then generally up by the second round of the second wave as well. Her Hex actually is quite nice. It means I don't get stuck against the block damage debuff champions and the vagabonds and things of the world, because she just takes it away from them, which is actually pretty useful as well. So she's been a pleasant surprise. As I say, I finally got that War Maiden. So I have a team, I have a campaign farmer in the works. It's just a case of plugging on through, keeping on going, and doing the work on them. So that's where I'm at. I'll be back for another update and this final Sacred Shard pull, which will be once the 2 times opens this weekend, and I'll be able to let you know how much further I've got on with the team and things at that point as well. The only final thing I have to note is this Iron Brago fusion. I've ended up collecting 50 fragments, and that might even end up being more than that by the time this thing ends in a few days' time. And honestly, I think given that I didn't realize how much lower the values of the tournaments and the events for these fragments were going to be on a low end account, if I'd thrown everything I possibly could have at doing this fusion, I might well have been able to do this. I'm starting only a couple of days before it when it began. I thought I had no chance, but a lot of these I've gained just by being in the game. And I think if my focus had been on this, like I say, given the fact that they reduce the values that you require in these tournaments and things based on level, I possibly could have done this. I don't know that for sure. I may have ended up stuck at 80, 85, 90 fragments and just been really annoyed that that's what I'd put all my first 2 weeks of game time into and to get nothing. Because we still don't know if we're ever going to be allowed to complete these other than buying them for extortionate prices. So it could have been a waste of time, but like if I'd been at least maybe a week or more into the game when this began, I think I definitely should have gone for it. I know a couple of the other free to play account guys like Cold Brew just got his, and he's sort of 25 days into his free to play account, I think. So it's definitely doable early just because of those reduced prices, whereas my main has actually struggled a little bit. Some of the things like the second Dungeon Divers event, like unless you have a whole ton of energy still stored up, it's a long way into the game to get a lot. It's a lot of grinding to get through to the second set of fragments in that. Fortunately, I don't need to. I did enough in the first weekend that I don't have to go to that second one. But I do have to do the champ training still, so I'll be back over there in a little while doing that. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope you're all still enjoying the events and keeping well, and I will see you in a few days for this sacred pull and another update. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and if you do feel inclined, I would love a subscribe and a like on the video. See you later.